Hello everyone, I've done a new update to my guild sheets that I wanted to share with you all today, and there's been a bunch of different additions that I've been wanting to release for a little while, and so I'm going to walk you through them. Just for those of you that don't know, the guild sheets show your guild progress by grabbing data directly from the Tacticus API and then displaying it in really easy to digest ways. I've done a few videos on this, and I'll include the main video that shows you how to set this up at the end of this video, just for reference. But otherwise, today we're just going to go into some of the new additions and I'll walk you through what they exactly do. So one thing to note is that because you're accessing your guild's data, this is exclusively available for guild leaders. That's a decision from Snowprint. So you're going to need to discuss with your guild leader how to use these and making sure that you poke them into actually setting it up for your guild. But let's dive in and have a look through the new features. Oh, just before I do, this is a bit of a low production video, as you can hear, and it's because I always feel the information and walking you through the changes is more important than making it super polished. Like some of my other videos, I spend a lot more time on it. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this kind of video okay for walking you through, or would you prefer when it's a super high polished video? So let's dive in. So the first thing is, yeah, as always, we've got the FAQ and instructions, and it gives you all the information about how to set it up. Although I would really recommend watching the video because some of these steps are a little bit complicated. But the new step here is that if you've got an old sheet, then you're able to enter the URL in this box here, and this will allow you to copy across the entire Guild Raid season history from one of your old sheets. So what does this mean? It's basically when you update my sheets, you lose all your old history of all the Guild Raid seasons that you've done. And that wasn't a problem before when Snowprint were allowing you to, well, basically the API gave you access to all previous seasons, but they've recently made a change where it only keeps the last 2 seasons. And so now that you're going to basically lose all your data as soon as you update to the latest sheet. So what you want to do is copy the URL from your previous version of the sheets, post it in there, and when you hit click me, once you've set everything else up, including your API here and your player directory, as you would normally do with the sheets, once you hit click me, it automatically copies across all the old versions. This is a really nice feature, and I wish I'd discovered how to do this before with my other non-guild sheets, like my basic normal player sheets, because we could have saved ourselves a lot of hassle in the past. But now that I know it, at some point I'm definitely going to pull it across to my other sheets as well. So a good new feature there. The other thing is just for those of you who have been running this for a while, you'll know that when you've got a new version, I'm actually messaging you in Sheets. It basically tells you, okay, you need to now come and grab the latest version of my Sheets. So you don't need to keep coming and looking at my Sheets in order to make sure that you're on the latest version. As soon as I update, it'll post a little message to you. Another really nice feature that I really want to move into my player centric sheets later on. So those are big changes from the FAQ and instruction page. Then I've done a big tidy up on the boss records tab, because this actually wasn't really working very well, and now you can see each season of the guild bosses. So right now we are in Guild Boss Season 2 config, which is just basically the list of bosses that you're actually going to fight against. Last season was the Guild Boss Season config 1. You can see everybody's name, and you can see the highest score that they've got for each boss per season. So right now you can see there's not many records for each character in Season 2. That's because on this specific version of the sheets, we've only just started in this season, and so it's only just started recording. Also, I haven't got every other season from the last 4 or 5 that we've been fighting against, just because this was just a brand new copy of the latest version of my sheets that I just ran today in order to just get this up and running and show you quickly some of the new features. So you're able to kind of yeah, also sort, and you can see who's got the lowest scores, who's got the highest scores each season. You could sort by player's name if you want to see that. And so there's a bunch of different things you can do around this, but generally you're going to be able to tell what your highest score for each boss is. And so once you fill in a full 5 seasons, when it comes around to season 1 again, it'll again start automatically updating over the top of your highest scores. So it's not going to post a lower score, it'll only post when you hit a higher score. So it's a really nice thing for checking out the improvements in your team and sharing with your guild mates. Moving into the boss breakdown, there's not any new changes here. It's all seems to be working really well. You can see I've got a few player names missing here on my guild. That's just because we've just hired some new players and I haven't added their player IDs to the player directory. But generally everything's the same here. You can have a look at all the bosses. You can see how much damage you're doing on the left side boss, and then on the right side boss, and then on the boss himself. And so yeah, we've got up until legendary Rogel Dorn, and then again everything similar to what we've got in the guild raid summary that I'm about to show you. You can see how many battles people have done and how much total damage they've added to your guild raid season. Next, the guild raid summary itself. This shows you specifically the amount of damage you've done, the battles you've done, and the average damage. So if we look at one of the later bosses, then you can see that Dogboy has done just over 500k damage against the Hive Tyrant Gorgon. They've had 2 battles, and that gives them an average of about 250k. That works for everybody, and again you can see we're at Rogel Dorn, and so you can see how much damage you've done, what the battles are, what the average damage is per boss. You might have noticed right at the very start that this has not got any battles against it, and that's because these are just bombs that people have thrown. At some point I do mean to add in break the bomb damage away from the actual battle damage. I just haven't got around to doing that yet, but at some point we'll get there. So that's the guild raid summary. And then the final thing is actually where there's been a bunch of changes, the actual charts themselves. One of the things I'm always trying to do with the charts is really show the improvements that players have done. And so I added these 2 charts here and here. I've always had the total damage that you've done this season. I've done and then a pie chart on the damage contribution by player, and then also the battles per player. That's always been there. But this new one, or these new 2, this one is focused around the current season damage versus your last 5 seasons average. So that means we've taken all of the last 5 seasons damage that you've done, averaged it, and then compared it versus your current season damage. And you can see right now, because we've just started the season, we're well below our previous damages that we would have normally done. So this, as the season progresses, you'll see this change, and I'll actually show you a version of it, of how it will look at the end of the season in a minute. Alongside that, we're also looking at our damage across seasons versus this, like the similar boss lineup. So what that means is, if we're on guild boss config 1, the last time we fought guild boss config 1, let's look at the damage difference between those 2. You're going to really see how much you've improved as a player over the last 5 seasons with the same bosses that you fought before. So it gives you a really good comparison. And we can see this a little bit better if we come over to, this is my own guild sheets. So if we dive into the current season damage versus the previous 5 seasons average, you can see that Paddy's done a really amazing job. He's 2 million over, which means he's really investing his time into guild raids and becoming this much stronger player for our team. Whereas, yeah, on the other scale, Rylanor and Storming have been struggling and they've dropped versus their average. You can see me here as well. Look, I've also dropped. So I need to, pull my socks up, as they say in the UK, and do a lot more damage. Then if we have a look at your damage across seasons versus the same boss lineup, you can see that in season 70, we were doing a lot less. Now, there is a little bit of a funky result here because season 70 was the first time that the API was released, and so it only actually had half the data. So this is why the blue line is so much lower than the red line. But with the current season, we're actually going to see this really being a good comparison. Apart from the fact that they swapped one of the characters because one of the raid bosses because Gazgul was a problem, so it's going to be slightly different, but it's going to give you a good idea of how much you've improved. So yeah, that's all the changes that I've got for you today. I'm going to keep developing this as we move forwards. If you've got any ideas for things that I could improve, then definitely hit me up in the comments. And just generally, if you've got anything to talk about, you know where I'm at. I'd love to hear from you. All right, thank you all and good luck. So when you grab my guild sheets, what you're going to get is actually just a very simple 2-tab sheet. It's going to have FAQ and instructions like you should all be familiar with, and it's going to have a player directory. Just to be very clear, all of these player names and all of these player IDs are fake, and for everything I'm going to show you today, they're all faked. So don't worry about any data protection issues or anything like that. This is all faked. As you can see with the player IDs, it's all obfuscated with like X's at the end. And all of these are all faked as well. So nothing here to worry about for anyone, but this is what you're going to get. So FAQ instructions and a player directory. There is a Guild Wars tab, and that's going to be, Guild Wars is just going to be added into this sheet and taken off my other sheet, but we'll come to that later on. Right now, the main thing is just getting this sheet up and running. So the first thing that you'll do is exactly the same as what you did in my other sheets. You get your API here, and then once you've got your API key here, you enter it in there. You decide if you want automatic updates. I mean, generally I would recommend yes, because it's going to automatically grab your guild raid data every hour. And then before you press the big fat button, there's something else you need to do. And this is a new step specifically for these for the scripts. You need to come into the player directory and you need to get all of your teammates' names and you need to get their player IDs. And so that's going to be a little bit tricky for you to do in order to pull them together. There is different ways that you can do this. One, you can go to every single person and ask them to give you their player ID. There is also the possibility of actually getting them from the guild info. At least you would have the player IDs, and then you could just assign pretend names until you work out who's who, and that would at least get you started with the scripts. And once you've done all that, hit the click me button, and then it's going to, as always, ask you to authorize your scripts. All the scripts are safe again, like for any of the community that wants to go and check them. There's nothing fun here. We've just got this pretty much the same as we had before. We've got a get API key, a fetch and setup trigger, like a fetch and setup trigger script, which basically runs through all of the different tabs and sets them up. We're fetching the guild data. We're fetching the raid season data, and then all of the next ones are actually dealing with that guild raid data. We set up the guild raid damage sheet, so the summary sheet. I've got a reset all data and triggers thing here, which allows me to kind of clear everything quickly so that I can do testing. There's an update boss records script, a guild charts script, and then there's just another script for me to test the API keys. So I'm hoping somebody from the community has a look through this, verifies everything's secure for you, but otherwise, all I can say is there's no real benefit for me to do anything funny here. So, but everything's public access. So once you've done all of that, what it's going to happen is you'll run it, and it's going to open a bunch of new tabs that we can see across the bottom. We've got the guild info, the guild raid season 70, guild raid summary, boss records, and guild charts. And so going through each of those one by one, the player directory we've already shared. The guild info gives you just a breakdown of which guild you're in, the level of the guild, the user IDs, again, these are obfuscated, again, these are just pretend, the role that each of your guild members have got, their level, their last activity, and this might be useful if you want to be checking whether they need to be kicked out of the guild because they haven't been around for too long. And the current season ID, so the last season we just finished with guild raids is season 70. And moving to the guild raid season 70 tab, this wheel here will see the season ID. We see the guild boss season config, and that just shows you like the configuration of the different bosses. So every season, Snowprint use a different config, and they just have that stored somewhere. So eventually we'll go probably config 2 next season, then it'll go 3, 4, 5, and then back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's kind of how it runs. I talked about all of this in my last video because I was kind of sharing with everything, but this is just like showing you which bosses you're fighting, all the kind of damage you're doing, what type of damage it is, and when you started and completed the battles. And each of these is basically a battle for all your different people. And so what's supposed to happen, I just haven't tested it yet because this is the first season it's been running, is that every time there's a new season, we should get a new tab here, and eventually I'm going to hide all the old tabs so that you can only see like the latest one. But actually this is more just a raw data sheet, and generally I don't really want to be showing anybody this because it's just nonsense for the most part. What's more interesting is the guild raid summary sheet. And you can see there's some formatting issues I still need to fix here. It's been, like I said, fun and games trying to get this working. This needs to overspill here, and there needs to be proper borders around this and this. So it should look a little bit like that, or something along those lines. Yeah, it's not quite there yet, but we'll manage to fix that soon enough. So what this is really showing you, it shows you your player name down the side. It shows you the number of battles they've participated in this season and the total for everybody, the total damage and per person. And then also for each boss, it'll show you the damage that they've done, the battles they've participated in, and the average damage, which is just that divided by that. So you can start to get an idea of where people are. Then in our boss records, this is a new feature for me actually I've been playing around with, which is a lot of fun. You can start to record every single player. You can record the boss name and the highest damage, and it does this all automatically. So every time that there's a new score, if say Mournhelm beats Avatar of Cain with 300,000, then they're gonna appear in here, and so you'll be able to, I don't know, share this with your guild and do fun stuff with it. Oh yeah, one last thing I forgot around these two tabs. You can, if you are wanting to check, you can see the player ID here, which will be taken from here, and then it will reference the names, right? So that's how you can check that everything's matched up. It's the same with this. Again, the player IDs are here and the names are here. Yep. So last one is just the charts, and this is something again that we can expand later on, but I just want to get it working, make sure it's all good for you. So we've got total damage by player, sorted by the most damage this season. And then we've got it in a pie chart form. This is something I've always shared with my guild mates, and it's really handy for them. Then we've got the battles per player, and again, maybe you've like us, maybe you've got a limit where you need people to be above that number. And so Braxigard and Carnothor don't look like they've actually been playing enough. Maybe they need to be kicked out the guild, or maybe you're just a casual guild that doesn't need to worry about that. There's lots of possibilities here. And then we've got this really crazy chart, which I'm not sure that we'll keep, which is player damage by boss type. Not actually sure it's telling us anything useful, but the reason that this is here is I just wanted a nice 4 charts for us to get started with. What actually this chart is definitely going to be replaced with is your total damage versus the average of the last 3 seasons damage. So for example, it would take this and then it would compare it with the average of your last 3 seasons total damage, and you'll see whether you've gone up or down. This, I'll maybe also do it comparing season configs. I think that's going to be a smart chart to put in there. Yeah, just lots that we can play around with. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. This is actually everything that I've done so far. as you can see, it's rough, but the most important part is that we can just start to, as guilds, start to actually see our data coming out without having to manually do it all. And yeah, it'll add in all the different bosses per rarity. So eventually it should be like pretty big in this sheet, and we'll be able to summarize all that into different charts. I think that's everything for me today. Good luck.